paper on the stick.
All right. Hello, everybody. We have conservative Ant on with us today, and Wisconsin Republican gubernatorial candidate Jonathan Wichmann. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
How's everybody doing this evening?
Good.
Wonderful. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. So I do want to cover real quick. We're going to run Jonathan's website below. And then everyone that knows Stitch on TikTok, her sister just passed away from the COVID vaccine. She's fighting to have her the autopsy done to verify that it wasn't actually COVID that did it, and the county won't do it, so they're having to do a private one autopsy. So we're running her Venmo down, so she's raising money for that. So I'll have those two down below. And so we'll go ahead and get started here with Jonathan. So Jonathan, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Sure. I was born and raised in Wisconsin my entire life, 36 years, only child. I was homeschooled all the way up to college. My father worked for Milwaukee Public School System as a janitor and high pressure boiler operator. So came from a low middle class income family, was born and raised, in a 900 square foot home. And my dad taught me hard work and education is the way to go. So I placed a lot of value on that. And homeschooling, the reason for that was he saw the curriculum and the way that public schools were going during that time and didn't want me, anything to do with it, right? So double major in business and information technology. Started my own business about 8 years ago, but I've had an entire career in corporate doing digital marketing, sales. So I really understand what it takes to create your first job and grow an economy. I've studied under people like Ron Paul, Peter Schiff. So I subscribe to Austrian economics. I believe that's the proper way to look and view at the economy. And the way we're going down this road, the last 12 years is a disaster. And I was really frustrated. It seems like it didn't matter if it was a Republican or Democrat. The debt kept going higher and higher. The deficit kept getting larger and larger. More jobs kept shipping overseas. And every American citizen kept getting more poor. And obviously when the lockdowns came, I had about enough of it. So I put a team together and I said, I think I can do a lot better than this. And I decided to run for governor. So I've been campaigning 15 months. I was the first Republican governor candidate to declare in Wisconsin. I reached about 400,000 people in Wisconsin every month with my messaging on Facebook. I went from 0 to a little over 52,000 Facebook supporters. But again, my reach is about 400,000. And that all led to my recent endorsement from General Michael Flynn.
Congrats.
That's
on that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
It is awesome.
So coming from Wisconsin and you're born and raised, what do you think was the big thing that made you want to run?
That's good question. The current Governor Tony Evers, he's a puppet. And he's part of, in my opinion, the globalist agenda. So he's just a simple order taker. And he's running the state that I love into the ground. I have so many great memories here, as a child growing up. And he's destroying it. And he's doing it on purpose because there is there's an agenda, a communist agenda here coming out, in full play. And it's the controlled collapse of America. And I love history. So I study history, all growing up. And I saw what was done in the Soviet Union, what was done to Venezuela, right? It goes on and on and on. And the same playbook is being done here in America. And the citizens for so many years were just asleep. We're asleep at the wheel. The apathy, people care more about professional sports than they do anything else, it seems like. And so, that saying, I never talk about politics or religion, I never understood that because politics impacts your life every single day. Wouldn't you want to know how it actually works? So again, I went on my journey. The journey began really after the 2008 financial crisis, when the American dream, as it was sold to us, completely evaporated before our eyes. And coming out of college, working, trying to find a first job, it was very difficult. So I struggled and I lived at home for quite some time to finally was able to get on my feet into this one tiny little bedroom apartment, and it's just work. And what irritated me the most was that, these banks and these, hedge funds stuff, they're the ones that caused the problem through the speculation and leveraging. And they're the ones that got bailed out, billions of dollars bailed them out. And we were left with nothing. So that didn't sit right with me. The best book I ever read was End the Fed by Ron Paul. Great. And then also The Creature from Jekyll Island. And that's how my adventure began. So I was obsessing about the last 12 years. How do we bring the deep state down, as we call it, right? And so when President Donald Trump got elected, first of all, I thought that was a miracle because, he's run up against Hillary Clinton and we know how she plays dirty. So I was really surprised that he actually won. But the moment he got into office, I knew that the deep state would begin to work against him. And sure enough, we saw that's exactly what happened, right? So in September of 2019, the repo market, the interbank repo market broke once again, just like it did prior to the 2008 crash. And I said to my inner circle again, I said, they're going to print trillions of dollars, but they're going to need a global cover story for this because they don't want to get blamed for it. The federal government doesn't want to get blamed. The banking cartels want to get blamed for it. So they need a cover story. And sure enough, in December, what we hear out of Wuhan, here comes coronavirus. And, I was okay with the 2 weeks, let's wait and see type of thing. But the moment we went longer than that, and the moment that Anthony Fauci's, estimates, the death estimates, right? Millions of people are going to die, and they quickly switched over to the case count. I knew something was up. I knew a major false flag had been played on us. And I said, this is bad. And there's going to be a really draconian measures that keep coming out of this. And what really concerned me was then the mask mandates that came down, right, on our children. And so I was out there fighting as a candidate, getting in the face of school board members throughout different counties, also common council within Milwaukee, and saying this is bad for business. We need to open up Wisconsin. We can't, we're locked down for almost 3 months, and they were going to go longer. Finally someone sued, right? A lot of people sued, went all the way up to the state Supreme Court. And then finally there was one person, Brian Hagedorn, who was the swing vote. And he knocked it down, thank God. But yeah, Tony Evers and the policy throughout the United States was to drive small business directly into the ground. But somehow Walmart, Amazon, right, all these other big multinational corporations, they could stay open. The virus didn't impact them supposedly, right? So there were so many red flags that were going off. That I say, this is bad. There's no leadership coming out of the Republican Party. Who I saw queued up potentially was not going to cut it. And she's still not going to cut it. Her name is Rebecca Clayfish, and she used to be a news anchor for fake news. And yeah, she served as an LT under Walker, but that administration didn't do a whole lot. It was good for the time, but we've entered into a whole different paradigm. They're going for all the marbles. So we need someone with a real spine who gets aggressive and fights back and takes back our freedom. And that's what I did. Sorry to talk so long, but there's a lot to unpack. I've been in the fight 12 hours a day, 15 months, trying to save my state and protect our freedoms.
That's what we need. We need passion. We need real people to start running our states and our local governments, and then work our way up to the feds.
Yeah.
So Rose said she wants to know how you would handle a situation like 2011.
What specifically happened in 2011?
That I don't know. I guess we can kind of go on to maybe how would you have handled COVID?
Oh, COVID. Oh, well, yeah. Again, first of all, I have many sources throughout many different industries, one being healthcare. So I had good people on the ground inside of these major healthcare organizations that were feeding me the real data. So I knew early on, by week 3, these hospital beds were not filled like they were saying, right? They were not overrun. It was all theater. Now, did some people get COVID and die? Absolutely, they did. But what I saw is a lot of internal documents come through where it said, when in doubt on something, label it COVID-19. And then there's a huge, monetary value that gets assigned to that. Well, why are you paying these hospitals, right? What it come to now, is it $39 or more $1,000 per, per COVID case once they got on that ventilator?
Yeah.
So the protocol was to stack these people, on the way that, they said to do it so the money would follow. But again, the beds weren't filled. It was maybe slightly worse than the normal flu. And then everything got lumped into COVID, though. I mean, you could die from heart attack, right? All these different things, car accident. It was COVID-19. So it smelled like a rat. It was a rat. And here we are. And what's even crazier, though, is Rand Paul grilling Anthony Fauci, looking back there at gain of function. I mean, these guys actually tried through, again, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, right? World Economic Forum, all these people together, they conspired, and they actually tried to enhance this virus to make it worse than it was. So it really was a low-level bioweapon that could have even been worse. I mean, these people are insane. They're psychopaths, and they all need to go to jail. if not more, for treason.
So I guess in 2011 it was the Capitol occupation that happened.
Capital occupation.
I guess in Wisconsin.
Oh, was that during the recall probably?
Yeah, Act 10 that was occupied at the Capitol.
Okay. Well, it depends.
I mean, how would they want him to handle that? So I'm trying to help you out here, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So
Okay. 2011 Act 10. Yeah, Act 10. Okay, so Act 10. What? Yeah, this was silly. That's a good point right there too. So the Democrats put a recall against Scott Walker at the time simply because he wanted a balanced budget. He wanted fair bargaining, right? He wanted state employees to just pay a little bit more fair share when it came to benefits. There's a lot more involved in there, right? And also there was the teachers union. He wanted to bust up the teacher union, and I don't disagree. I want to bring free market principles not only back into education but into healthcare. Whenever you get government involved in anything, not only does it get more expensive, the service becomes worse, right? So the Democrats, again, they're used to living high off of other people's money, and so when he went to touch this measure here, they all freaked out. And they put a recall together. They stormed the Capitol, all the protests, right, over something like this. So how I would handle that as governor, obviously, no, it's a bunch of nonsense. You have the right you have the right to peacefully assemble, right, and protest. But at the moment you begin destroying property, defacing, that's when you cross the line. So I would have had, I would have had, first of all, I would have full law enforcement staff, right? I would never cut law enforcement, number one. If they still needed more assistance and resources, immediately call the National Guard and protect that. That's the same thing I would have done in Kenosha when Kenosha was burning, back during the Jacob Blake incidents. So.
Good.
So I know a big thing right now is parents are concerned about critical race theory, masking their kids. Now vaccines with ages 12 and up. What do you want to tell people in Wisconsin? How would you protect their children if you became the governor?
Sure. So let me give a little context here. So when I began, I knew that if we're going to have real change in Wisconsin, the voters had to really understand the problems at hand. So I spent a lot of time building out podcasts and videos, touching on many different topics, right? So if you actually do go to wichmannforgovernor.com, you scroll down, you'll get a preview of a lot of my YouTube videos, but you can go to my YouTube channel and there's a whole history, an archive of everything I've done to date. And if you look at that, all the information, that I had there was telling the people of Wisconsin things that were going to happen before they did. So, once we're going through the lockdown, right, we battled that. Then the mask mandate came, okay? And I said, listen, this mask is a joke. If this really was a low-level bioweapon, you'd have to have full hazmat suits on, like the military. That's the only thing that's going to protect you. This little mask or turtleneck that you put over your face is garbage. And so the fact they're trying to condition Americans to wear a mask to enter, at the grocery store, retail, right, all this stuff, it was simply conditioning. Now, I took a lot of heat for that. A lot of people said you're crazy, you're nuts. But that's what leadership is. Real leadership is out in front. You're a target. You're going to take some heat. But if you have the vision, if you see what's coming next, right, that's the right thing to do. And the reason I said we had to tone down the fear regarding coronavirus and scale back the mask mandates is I knew, because I know Big Pharma and how they operate, they were going to make their experimental shot the only way back to normal. The condition way back to normal. I said they're going to tie this to your employment. They're going to try and tie it to you being able to go to the store. They're going to have an ID pass. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And obviously, look at Australia, look at France, that's what they did. The reason it's not fully implemented here just yet is because we have the Second Amendment. That's the only reason. If we didn't have that, they'd be steamrolling this in right now. So the mask mandates on the kids, and that's sad because the kids really became conditioned within a few weeks to this. I was in the checkout line at a grocery store, checking out, and there was a 5-year-old boy with his mask on right next to me, and he pointed up at me and said, how come he's not wearing his mask? And, it's like, wow, this is sad, right? And so very sad. And I have parents, I talk to parents all the time, back in the heat of it, my kid comes home and he's terrified. He won't take off his mask. So now it's like this safety blanket, So I believe in the immune system. God created our immune system. Once again, we saw there was things like vitamin C boosting, zinc, right? All these other different things. But Pfizer said, no, the only way back to normal is through our experimental shot. They made it so doctors could not prescribe things that, that would help people, not only prevent, but actually, really, not to cure, but help them get over COVID in a few days, right? But that wasn't the method of treatment that was provided. And so now here we are in this trap. The perfect mousetrap has been built for us, and we have to fight like hell to get out of it and get back to freedom. We have lost so much ground, so many of our freedoms that we're right on the edge of falling into the abyss of tyranny. And if we give in, I don't know how many generations will be lost to it. So
I 100% agree. They're wanting to know your stance on Second Amendment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Obviously, shall never be infringed upon. I take the Constitution literally. So the other thing is I conceal carry myself. I carry daily. I believe in constitutional carry as part of my platform. Again, if you go to wichmannforgovernor.com, I lay it all out there for you. So you can see everything that I stand for.
Now, are schools allowed in Wisconsin to exempt themselves from vaccines right now? Is that a standard protocol in Wisconsin?
Well, here's the thing. Because all the federal bribe money has been spread out now, they're falling in lockstep with the agenda, right? Have you guys done research on Event 201?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a public-private partnership. So the agenda is coming down from the government level, but they're using, the private corporations to begin implementing this. And the schools really are no different. And what really manifested and showed this was the school board. I mean, it's the school board members, right? The people actually in your community. Yet, I went to so many different school board meetings, testifying, trying to fight for the rights of the kids, just making mask optional. And so many, and there's just cold stares. Didn't matter what the parents said, and again, the ratio was the percentage was 85%, people didn't want their kids to wear masks anymore, and the school board members would not listen. It's like they had prepared statements, and they said, nope, masks are still required. Screw you, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that, obviously the way you've been talking so far, that you're going to try to make the vaccines and masks pretty much voluntary.
Oh yeah, I mean I've already been fighting for that as a candidate. So I presented some ideas to our Republican majority, really not veto proof majority, but in the assembly. I said, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you Tony Evers is not going to sign it. We already know this. So people got so fed up after the Kenosha burning, right, that a recall happened. So they started to recall Tony Evers. And I said, yeah, that's the right move. That's what should happen. They recalled Scott Walker on lesser things. It's dumb. This one, they should totally recall him on. You want to know what happened? Robin Vos, the speaker, who is supposedly Republican, I find out finally, by doing digging in connections and getting deep into the swamp here, drudging through it, he's the one that killed the recall. So we actually had a Republican, a rhino, work against the will of the people, work against a recall. Now, what is interesting is I'm curious to see how the California recall plays out tonight, if all things actually are fair, right? Because that should be the example. What happened?
Oh, and it's rolling his eyes about that.
It's not. He's not going to get recalled. And I'm not to interrupt Jonathan at all, but I do think that whether he's recalled or not, it should scare Democrats nationwide because Americans are fed up. And so it's a good sign to know that they're probably going to lose seats in the next election. But I digress. That's why I was laughing, because I already know that they're already saying that there's some fraud going on. And I'm like, duh. I mean,
right.
They literally called the whole firing squad. There was a whole party. It was like Nancy, but let's bring everybody together now. Come on.
True.
Liberals.
What's really sad though is getting involved and going through everything I've gone through, really getting to know the people inside of Madison. It's sad because I verified there's maybe like a small handful, maybe 2, 3, 5 max, not only state senators but assembly reps that actually are working for we the people. Everyone else either has their own agenda, bought off, or doesn't have a spine. Yeah. So they stand in neutral, doing nothing, while our whole country and our state just slips right through our fingers. And people are so frustrated right now. So I have an extremely high chance of winning this. Yes, I am not the establishment candidate. I don't have the millions of dollars necessarily that they do, but I've been so effective with my messaging and campaigning throughout the state and digital marketing, right? And getting the right message into their people's hands and being out there visibly fighting for them, being at the healthcare rallies, trying to defend them and their rights, working to tell them, put in your religious exemption, right? There's on the Wisconsin law books, you have a religious exemption, file it. And a lot of people are doing that. It's getting approved. I'm saying, hey, stand strong. Don't cave into their weekly testing, because the weekly testing is a bunch of nonsense. What people need to understand, though, about the COVID-19 narrative is not about your health. It's about control. And the other thing that it's doing is it's destroying the economy, it's destroying the supply chain. And when you're bringing a country into communism, you have to control the supply chain and you have to control the food supply. Once you do that, you can choke off the people and you can make your demands. And unfortunately, most of the time, people cave and they'll bend the knee to it.
Yeah. Thoughts on legalization of medical or recreational?
Oh yeah. Again, on my wichmannforgovernor.com, I am pro-cannabis. Pro-cannabis for medical first. I'm not in a super rush for general just yet, but we definitely should decriminalize it. Absolutely. The reason for this is my mom actually coming up on October 3rd passed away 2 years ago from cancer, and cannabis honestly was the only thing that actually helped her keep an appetite. So she was a small woman, had a hard time keeping on weight. And so cannabis really kicked in her appetite and made her want to eat food. So I know the medical properties. I know the massive disinformation behind this since the 80s, since Ronald Reagan. It should have never been classified in the same way as heroin and meth, right? Not even near the same thing. And if you look right about that time, that's when big pharma and the patenting of all these drugs came into play, and the billions of dollars once again funneled into the hands of the private. And a plant that God created that has so many benefits. I have so many veterans, PTSD, cancer patients, so many other people reach out to me. Hey, Jonathan, cannabis saves my life daily. It helps me, right? So I see the benefit in this. And I'm definitely pro-cannabis. I have every intention to legalize it, at least starting with medical first. And the other thing is, why do we let the Democrats control the narrative on this all the time? Yeah. Tony Evers ran on, I'm going to legalize cannabis. He never did, because he can't, because we have a majority of Republicans in the House. So, so again, the only one that could do it would be a Republican candidate, and that would be me.
What is a policy implemented by Governor Evers that you find most frustrating?
Well, what is he not doing? That's wrong. I mean, there's so many different things. What really bothered me the most was his direct, intention in taking out small businesses. I mean, he worked hard to keep that, not only the lockdown, but then a minimal capacity, in place on bars and restaurants. Bars and restaurants, they can't survive off of 25%, capacity. It's a joke, right? And then just honestly, the double standard. Like he was caught in so many different places out when he finally did crawl out of his hole, where he wasn't wearing a mask. Same thing with Tom Barrett, the mayor of Milwaukee, right? They're preaching masks, they're trying to enforce it on you and the businesses, and then they're out and about around people and they don't have one on.
Right.
I mean, it's a sham,
So can you refresh my memory? So before I lived in Florida, I lived in Illinois, and I worked near the Wisconsin border up in Vernon Hills. But I have family in Kenosha, and we have boats and places in Lake Geneva that we go to often too during the summer. So I remember when Wisconsin had lifted the mask mandate before Illinois after our extended lockdowns, and everybody flooded from Illinois. I don't know if you remember this, into Wisconsin, and literally like downtown Lake Geneva was packed. I mean, it was like shoulder to shoulder in every bar, and people were angry. Mm-hmm. So I can't remember, did the governor end up going back into a mask mandate after that? What was the...
Sure. So yeah, it was pretty, it was filled with drama. So Tony Evers got away with 4 back-to-back executive orders, illegal. All right. And each executive order runs for 60 days. So the state assembly did not check him. Actually, they were spineless. It was actually a third party that had to file a lawsuit on this. And once again, it had to go all the way up the chain. It was a Senate Joint Resolution 3, I believe, if I remember correctly. And the Supreme Court had a rule on it, right? But I knew how the Wisconsin Supreme Court was stacked. And there was one guy I was unsure of. If he was actually a conservative. And I knew he was the key point. He was the key swing vote, and that was Brian Hagedorn. So I did a lot of public call to actions. Again, I had a pretty big following this time, probably 35, 40,000 people on my Facebook, really great diehard Patriot supporters. And so I put, Brian Hagedorn's name, email, and phone. I said, we got to call him, we got to email him, tell him to vote to end these lockdowns and the mask mandates, right? And so we did, and we broke his inbox, we broke his voicemail, and a few days later, he came out, and sure enough, he voted in our favor. Thank goodness. But yeah, 4 illegal executive orders. I mean, the Constitution is basically null and void. It's shredded. The Democrats aren't following it. No one's holding their feet to the fire, and this has to stop.
Yeah.
And the rhinos inside, they pretend like they're doing something, a lot of busy work. I mean, here's the thing. Okay, I really irritated and ticked off a lot of, Republicans inside of Madison because during Christmas, this one rep, he was so obsessed about, like, Tony Evers shut down the Capitol building, no one could come in, and he also wouldn't allow the annual Christmas tree to go up. So this Republican representative makes this huge spectacle about putting up a Christmas tree. So he put up the Christmas tree, and then the next day Evers took it down. So he took it down, and then he came back and he put the Christmas tree back up again. And this made news. It made local state news that there was a battle over the Christmas trees. Meanwhile, businesses were shut down. We had mask mandates, right? And they weren't doing anything about that. But this big hoopla about a Christmas tree, and I hit the roof. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yes.
I called him out. This is your fight. This is the fight that you're in, is over a Christmas tree.
What we're dying on.
Yeah, he'll probably he'll never forgive me for that. He always will have a chip on his shoulder about that. But it's the right call.
Yeah. So if you'll take me back to Kenosha,
Sure.
Obviously with what all happened there. So as somebody from an outside, what I saw is the state doing nothing. I don't know if they were while being in state, but what could you have done different as the governor to help curb some of that? Because I think it was over $1 billion in damage, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot. First of all, people have to understand what BLM and Antifa really are, okay? And that's the first step. And a lot of people do know, and some people don't know. But BLM really, is George Soros funded. It's organized, right? There's tons of money that comes into play, and they're meant to agitate and disrupt, and they're focused and organized in that way. So again, whenever you have a white officer on a black person, right, situation, whether they're shot dead or just shot in general, the media finds that one angle, and they say cop bad. This person, good, even though this person has a long criminal record. Like, if you really dig into Jacob Blake, he's not a good guy. He has a criminal record, right? He's wanted for things. And so then, the video that we saw, obviously, some people made snap, judgments immediately. And I knew, again, this probably was a, situation. We have to look at it more closely. There's probably more here than meets the eye. And then sure enough, when you see that video zoom in, you see that he did pull a knife. Jacob Blake had a knife in his hand. He was going in his car. At that point, as an officer, you don't know if there's a gun in the car. You don't know if he's going to pull it. Yeah, exactly. So, shots were fired. And the moment that happened, I knew Kenosha was in trouble. I knew BLM, and they were going to come in massively. They were going to start stuff and probably burn things to the ground. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And Tony Evers did not respond. He took the side of the criminal. He still, to this day, just a few days ago, put out a statement on the 1-year anniversary supporting the family of Jacob Black and Jacob as the victim. Yeah, he's still supporting the criminal. Not a word about the officers, nothing about the Kenosha citizens, nothing there. So as governor at that time, recognizing what BLM is, understanding that was about to be a flashpoint hotspot, I would have had every single available officer on duty, and National Guard immediately there, and not just protecting government buildings. It's always about the government buildings. Yes, I get it; they're an important asset, but we need to protect and defend our citizens, the private property. One guy lost his entire auto, car. You saw the pictures, just burned out. And then, an act of terrorism, some people, insurance wasn't covering. It was a mess. And again, so Tony Evers did not get the right amount of resources there in the amount of time needed, and actually took Congressman Brian Stile to call President Trump. It's a long, funny story how he did it, but he actually called the main line into the White House and slowly worked his way up till finally he got on the line with President Trump. And he's asking for resources and help. The National Guard come in. And President Trump was like, hey, Brian, isn't your governor supposed to call me? And Brian's like, I know I can't speak for my governor. Basically, he's an idiot, but I'm trying to advocate here. We need your help. Please help us. So that's what happened. And finally, they got it under control. But by that time, everything was burnt down. The damage was done. And then, of course, 2 people lost their lives there as well.
Yeah. What are some of your economic policies?
Oh, yeah, we have to have a balanced budget. Okay, we can't spend above our means. And at the federal level, this has never happened. So my whole policy is Wisconsin first. We have to take care of the state of Wisconsin and our people, right? I'm so tired of nation building. I'm so tired of saying trillions of dollars overseas and taking care of other people when our people are hurting, especially our veterans. We have to take care of them. So, I have a big heart for small business. I think property taxes, not only much too high, but they're illegal, really. I don't believe in property tax. I don't believe that the government should have a claim to your property after you have paid it off in full, right? It's not right. So I have a plan. What I want to do is I want to actually start by cutting unnecessary spending, and there's a lot of it. But this welfare state, right? This welfare state of mind. There's so many people that are able to work, that are physically able to work, and they're of sound mind, but they refuse to work. And how I know this is the truth is all we have to do is look at probably the past 8-9 months of how many people are still sitting on government unemployment. So much so that businesses everywhere can't find help.
Yep.
And there's businesses going out of business because there's no one there to service. There's no one to work.
Yep.
Because the government's outbidding the labor. Okay. So you got to get government out of the way. And what I want to do is I want to credit back property taxes. I want to fade it out. And then I want to actually do is I want to help small businesses revive. And what you need to do is take a percentage of people's property taxes and put it onto basically a debit card. Okay. And this debit card has to be spent within 9 months on small businesses only. So it will not work at your Walmart, your Target, your Amazon. It's going to only work at small businesses within the state. The numbers that I calculated is about $500 million that would be available every year in doing this. With $500 million a year, what's happening is that gives that confidence to the businesses within Wisconsin. It creates the money velocity. We need money velocity going again, right? You guys know what that is? Yeah. Okay, what happened is when they locked down the economy, money velocity stopped. So people were scared to spend, right? Because they didn't know if they'd have a job. So they hung on to what they had, and they only spent on the bare necessities, right? So their rent and food, that was it. All the discretionary spending kind of stopped. Well, we need to get the money velocity going again so people are confident in the economy, and this would do it, because what would happen is the small businesses in Wisconsin would know that every 8-9 months, $500 million is going to be spent within the state. They want to capture that. They want to compete for it, right? So they're getting access to it. They're growing. They feel confident to grow their business, to hire more people. And on top of that, then there's other business outside of the state that say, whoa, there's $500 million a year that's circulating here. I think I can come in and compete for that. So they bring their businesses and their jobs into the state. What you do then essentially is you grow the tax base off of the new companies, right, and the productivity coming into the state. You don't keep increasing property taxes just because these supposed valuation of your house goes higher and higher, which we know is artificial, right? So we need to get politicians thinking like businessmen, because all they do is, when they run out of money for stuff, they look to you and I and they say, hey, let's tax them harder. Let's find out what else we can take from them. Before you know it, you tax everyone back into poverty.
Yeah. It's essentially what they're doing.
Yeah.
And what's your thoughts on the eviction bans?
I don't think we should ever put them in place. Yeah. Well, we should never lock down the nation, right? There's a lot of things we shouldn't have done. But we did. So there's going to be consequences to this. There's going to be people that will lose their homes, that will get kicked out of apartments. I don't think it was fair, because then what happened was the burden got put onto the smaller property owner. So
yeah.
I'm not talking about the hedge funds, right? I'm not talking these big boys, but someone that just has maybe a fourplex or a duplex or a single family home, and they're renting it. Well, they didn't get their rent, but they still had to pay the lien on it, right? Because a lot of these people they leverage up. That's what happened pre-2008. When you're in real estate, you use the equity in that, right? You borrow and you keep going, and that's how you build your cash flow. Well, if you do that too far beyond your means, and something like this unexpected happens, all of a sudden it's a domino effect in the opposite way, and you lose your properties, right? And who gobbles them up? Well, it's Wall Street hedge funds. They gobble it up for pennies on the dollars always, and you're now out of luck. It's a consolidation of America, consolidation of the property into the hands of the few once again.
Gotcha. One of your Wisconsin citizens want to know what's your thoughts on the foster care system? Yeah,
I've gotten a few questions on this. I do see there are a lot of problems, within it. I'm still investigating with some people on exactly what we need to do, to make some changes for the better. So I can't give you a perfect answer on that just yet, but I am being made aware of the problems that need to be fixed on it. So we're taking a closer look at that.
That's absolutely fair. Yeah. Now, what are some quick fixes like that you can do like immediately, maybe with or without Congress, to implement pretty much immediately, that like day one you take office?
Yeah, well, what I anticipate going into 2022 and a little bit further beyond is a massive, we're already entering into what's called stagflation, okay? So stagflation, for those that maybe don't know, is we have all the massive money printing, all the new currency that's come into existence, but at the same time, production has dropped. So we see less goods and services on the market, but more money competing for it. So you have price, increasing dramatically. We actually hit double-digit inflation, increases in prices this year. I think double-digit increases per year is going to be the norm. Okay. So, and the federal government shows no sign of stopping. The trillions of dollars are going to continue to be printed, and here's the reason why. In 1913, when we sold out to the Federal Reserve System, we went from an honest monetary system to a debt-based monetary system. That didn't fully manifest until 1971, when Nixon pulled us off of the gold standard. Most people are like, why do we need to be on a gold standard? Isn't gold just this relic, right, of yesteryears? What the gold standard did was it constrained government to a certain limited size. It wouldn't allow massive government to get to where we are today, because you'd have to increase the actual tax base, right, in order to do that. So when you inflate the currency, it's a hidden tax, right? People don't really see it right away, but eventually they do feel it. But in an honest way, you'd have to come to the people and say, okay, in order to pay for these extra programs or these endless wars that we're in, we're going to have to take your tax base, from, let's just say 15% to 35, 40% now. That's what we're going to have to tax on your income. Well, you're going to freak out. Like, are you kidding me? There's no way, right? You're like, well, maybe we don't need to be in that war, and maybe people need to get back to work and not actually be on the welfare system. People would be up in arms. They would be storming the Capitol. There's no way, right? So this magic trick, and that's really what it is, through inflation, that's only because we went on a debt-based monetary system. Well, there's only one way with that. They have to keep inflating and printing more money. Otherwise, the whole Ponzi scheme comes collapsing down. And that's exactly what it is. It's a Ponzi scheme. Same thing with Social Security. The Social Security system is broke. It's already been tapped out. It's a Ponzi scheme. Yes, you'll get your Social Security check, but it'll be in inflated dollars that won't have the purchasing power anymore. So what we have to do on a state level, honestly, is we have to really nullify as much as we can from the federal government, stand in the way and say, no, we're not playing your games right anymore, and focus on protecting our state. One way that you could do is the states have the right to actually acquire physical gold in their budget. So I would like to take a certain percentage of our rainy day fund and turn it into gold bullion that we actually hold in the state treasury. Why is that important? Here's why. Because as we get closer to hyperinflation, and it doesn't even need to be hyperinflation, people are such on fixed budgets that a 25 to 40% increase in in the everyday things that they need to buy, that could be devastating to millions upon millions of people. That could feel like hyperinflation, right? So it's not even that much. So what happens is then your state budgets start to get pinched. And what most people don't know is probably about, last time I looked, 23 maybe to 28% of the Wisconsin state budget is made up of federal funds, right? So federal money, so you take the federal money off the table, all of a sudden you have almost a 30% gap in your budget. So what do? Do you raise taxes even higher, or you cut programs that shouldn't be there in the first place? The cutting is going to have to be massive. It's going to be painful. And so we have to do it. We have no choice. So the reason for the acquiring the gold now is because that would protect the state's budget's purchasing power. So the stuff you need, like plowing the roads, right? All these services that make cities work and the states work, you'd actually still have purchasing power to pay people to be willing to get them off of their butts to go do it, right? Because look what's happening. Companies trying to pay them $15, $18, $20 an hour, and people say, you know what? I'm still happy taking my government paid vacation, sitting on the couch doing nothing. That's what's happening. So how high do you have to raise wages to get people to go out and do something? I know I talk fast, but there's a lot of information I get out there. Right, though. But what I'm trying to tell people is that the best way to learn and understand it is this: take a glass dome and put it over your state. Just the state of Wisconsin, right? Yeah. Nothing can go out, nothing can come into your state. Whatever the people inside Wisconsin produce or don't produce, that's all you get to consume. That's the economy. So you could dump $1 trillion on your head right now, but if people aren't making the stuff and providing the service that we need on a daily basis, all of our living standard collapses. Mm-hmm. That's what it looks like then in Cuba and Venezuela, and that's what's coming here. Yeah,
you're 100% right. This seems to be a common issue pretty much everywhere across the country, is the rural areas and the roads. How do you plan on fixing them?
So actually, I traveled all throughout the state, and I know there's some areas that are worse off than others, but really, as I got further out into the country, I was looking for the road problem. There really was, right? But I mean, on the main ones going, the roads are nice. I mean, I was looking for it, right? But there's some off ones that I know that are problematic, but the city roads are actually worse. I mean, city Milwaukee roads are terrible because, you know, the usage and all this stuff, right? But yeah, infrastructure and roads obviously is a huge deal, especially in Wisconsin with the salts and, you know, the plows scraping out all the time. So there is this turnover rate that you have to do to maintain them. The budget's there. We just have to allocate it there. We just have to make it available, right? We don't need to raise the gas tax any higher. We don't need to put toll roads in. We just need to invest in the areas that need, that need the fixing, and that's all we need to do. So instead of wasting money over here, take the money and put it where we need it, into our roads and infrastructure.
Make it sound so simple.
Honestly, it really is. The sad thing is, it really is. And if you get into it, though, you see why it's not being done is, again, special interest, greasing the palms. Certain people benefit, and we, the people, right, that have everyday needs, we're neglected. We are an afterthought. But when you have someone that comes in with leadership and is really thinking about the people, he just simply, with a stroke of a pen, starts, moving line items around. No, 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 yes, 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 and the money gets distributed to where it needs to go.
And what are your views on Foxconn?
Foxconn was doomed to begin. It was not going to work from the beginning. So I did a video on this about 4.5 years ago, and I did a whole analysis on Foxconn. And I said, Foxconn, the parent company coming out of Taiwan. I looked at the wages in Taiwan. I looked at everything they were going to make and try to manufacture here. And the worst, honestly, for manufacturing and producing, the worst place to come is the United States. The cost of labor and overhead is probably, I don't want to say the most expensive, but very expensive, right? So I didn't see how they were going, their margins, I didn't see how they were going to make this work. So I had no idea why Foxconn was to come here and investing, especially here in Wisconsin, when it was going to be so expensive for them to do it. And sure enough, those jobs never manifested. The only way it would make sense, like I said, is if someone somewhere knew that America at some point in the near future was going to economically collapse, where the common citizen would be willing and grateful to work for $6, the equivalent of $6 an hour.
Yeah.
Time will tell. That may be on the horizon. We shall see.
Yeah. Hey, you got anything?
I'm just thinking of the state of Wisconsin, and I'm going through it, and I'm thinking to myself, it's a huge travel destination too, right, for the Midwest.
Oh, it's a beautiful state to come to. Yeah, hunting's a big one too. The deer hunt, top deer hunt.
Yeah, so I don't know what the restrictions, and that's actually what I was going to go to, is your hunting. So I don't know what the restrictions are for hunters in Wisconsin. I know it goes hand in hand with the Second Amendment and all these different types of laws and stuff.
We have the largest army every year when the hunters go out. Or the second, I think the second largest army in the world.
Is anything going to be changing? Is there anything that you'd like to change in that aspect when it comes to recreation and travel for Wisconsin, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I want people to come and enjoy and enjoy the tourism in our beautiful state. It's gorgeous. I also want to, I still want to. There's a balance between protecting our resources and then, pushing out industry, right? So we have to, we see how the EPA and all these, green movements, save the earth, save the earth, and actually everything that they do is actually more harmful and more energy intensive, like EVs, electric vehicles. Right, this whole push towards EVs. You look at the amount of energy that it takes; it's greater than combustion engines right now. So I mean, it's a huge debate. But when it comes to the deer hunt, I mean, I'm not a hunter, okay, but I own guns. I like to target practice. But I talk to a lot of hunters. I have friends that are hunters, and so they're in my ear all the time, telling me, "Hey, we got to look at this." Like the big thing was the issue with the gray wolf, right? When they put the ban on the gray wolf was hunting, too much moving in the deers. The deers were moving out of the rural areas, coming into the cities, right? Then you had more cars hitting deers. It was, so we needed the wolf hunt to come into play again. So we had to thin out the wolf hunt, the wolf herd a bit. But then, of course, the people on the left were screaming animal rights. So it's a mess there. And then the deer hunt, you have, the people that want to have the deer hunt within Wisconsin, people from other states are coming in. It's so cheap to get tags that you have this, massive demand in the deer hunt from everyone coming into our state, that hunters in Wisconsin here are kind of discouraged. It's not as fun, right? They don't see deers often. They don't get that big buck with that great rack that they're looking for anymore. So one thing I want to do is I want to raise prices on tags for people coming out of state into Wisconsin. So I want to protect the deer hunt for people that actually live here within our state. There's some things with What I'm thinking about. Oh, it's slipping my. Oh, is it DNR? Yeah, there's some issue. People have some issues with the DNR as well. So we're looking at that. But again, a balance between natural resources and industry is the key.
So is there a governor across the nation that you kind of look to and go, I want to kind of model after him or her?
Yeah.
They're doing a phenomenal job for their state.
Yeah, I think Ron DeSantis is killing it right now. He's doing a great job. Absolutely. Yeah. I know you like that. Yeah. Kristi Noem did really great as well. Last year during the lockdown, she didn't shut down her state. Her state, her model, it really is a perfect example of what would have happened here in Wisconsin if we didn't do what we did, right? And so she's better off. Yeah, I know the population differences. I know it's more spread out, but the reality is, this virus is going to be with us forever. All right, like every other virus. Do we shut down the world? Do we say we have to take booster shots every 5 months now? No, it's a bunch of nonsense.
I like her line from the start. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, they're having pushback on booster shots right now from the within the administration. Like, pushing back. Like, Biden's administration is pushing back against Biden about the booster shots. Like,
I know, they're crazy, aren't they? Absolutely nuts. Here's the thing: the agenda is for a vaccine passport, though, a vaccine ID, for you to show your digital papers to get in, to do anything. That is the end goal, and we can't allow that to happen in the United States. They're trying to do that on the airlines. They want to get used to, just like TSA when you had to go get a, prostate exam, at the airport, feeling up, right, going through, getting your X-rays. That's a bunch of nonsense. But now they want you to show your pass, your ID pass, and that should get you conditioned to have to show papers everywhere you go. And trying to bring us back to 1942, all over. I know it sounds extreme. Some people are like maybe be rolling their eyes and like, no, that's not the case. But yes, that's exactly where they want to take us. And then it goes back to the Second Amendment, our founding fathers. That's the only thing that's drawing a line in the sand, that's making them hesitate. So they're looking at the other play. Okay, we got to consolidate resources, the food supply. And once they drop the hammer on the economy, there's going to be a lot of Americans that will have nothing left, really. And when you have nothing left, it's hard to resist tyranny.
Yeah.
Hey, Tex, can we get a list of the airports that were performing the prostate exams, please? And can you please email them to me afterwards? Thank you. I'm just kidding.
Well, there's actually a bill in Congress for TSA to require vaccination status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the Leprechaun just said it this week on, I don't know if he was on MSNBC or one of those other fake news stations where he says that people should require vaccine passports to travel.
Yeah. So it's in the line. It's just a matter of time, I guess, at this point. And
Rose put a good comment up there, and I agree with you, Rose. A line in the sand doesn't mean anything unless you show repercussions. And the repercussions they're not going to come from our politicians. It's going to come from we the people. That's why my campaign title or slogan is Saving Wisconsin Together. In order for us to do this, all of us coming together, taking a portion of what's at hand and fighting back. Some people need to run for school board. Some people need to primary, these rhinos in assembly. I'm running for governor, right? But if we don't stand up and say, I'm not complying with your mask mandates, you're definitely not going to mask my children anymore. I'm taking my children. We're coming to school without them. Deal with it. Otherwise, I'm going to homeschool them, or we're going to go into private school. We're going to do something else. But we're not playing this game, and we're sure as heck not taking your shot in the shop, get the vaccine passport. That's what it is. And if they, again, if they're going to try and put guns in our face, like maybe in Australia, well, then it's a whole different scenario now. Now we have to evaluate what's happening here.
So 36 as the age of governor. Would that be the youngest governor?
Yeah, I know. I have to go back through all the governors in Wisconsin. Maybe I know for sure. I probably will hold a record for the longest campaign, though, as far as I can tell. I don't know any governor that's going to campaign almost 2.5 years. So
I think one of the more important questions for Wisconsin that Trump Queen asked was Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, Brett Favre all the way. I can't stand. I never could stand Aaron Rodgers. The guy's a drama queen. What is up with his hair this season? He looks like a homeless guy. Why is it the super rich people always look like trying to make themselves look homeless?
Bro, I don't get it. Even in Florida, the guys with like the mega yachts, they look like dirtbags. They look like bums.
I got to tell Ant that all the time, dude. You look homeless. Like,
right?
Dress it up a little bit.
Right.
And yes, I am married, by the way. Just I know someone was asking. So.
Oh yeah, we're ready to have like the bachelor-bachelorette situation here.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan,
Our
here's
guests
one
are
last
first.
one. What does Wisconsin mean to you? We'll end with this one.
Sure. Wisconsin is there's so there's so many memories here, right? It's all about memories. It's all about people. So for Wisconsin, it's about the people. We have some of the best, in my opinion, nicest people in the nation. If you come here, they're so nice. The reality is, though, we're maybe too nice. We let the left, stomp all over us and get their way. So it's time for us to rise up. But Wisconsin means beauty to me. There's beauty everywhere I look. Every time I drive out just a little bit outside of the city, and I go here and there, the fall colors, it's gorgeous. And like I said, the memories, right? The first girlfriend, right? The first kiss, sliding down this hill, ventures with my friends in the park, fishing, right? I love to fish as well as a kid. The bike ride. So that's what it is. And to see that destroyed, to see more and more poverty and suffering, coming to the state, and honestly, to see people's mental health suffer, that's a big one. I can tell everyone took a real big hit in the mental health area. I think, alcohol consumption went through the roof during the lockdown. People just didn't know how to cope with it. So Wisconsin means all these things, but again, at the end of the day, it's love. I'm doing this out of love for my state and for my people. I'm not getting anything out of this, really. I have nothing to gain per se, except preserving my freedom. And to me, that's everything. So that's what I'm bringing to the table. And I said, I'm going to win this race by winning the hearts and minds, one person at a time. And that's what I've done. I've answered thousands of messages personally on Facebook, in my inbox, my marketing email. I personally answered these messages. I've converted Democrats over. I had Democrats, I had to talk to, and not far left, obviously, but Democrats. And they say, Jonathan, you make so much sense. I love what you stand for. I can see your experience and your leadership. I'm voting for you. I bring libertarians and independent people over. So I'm uniting people together because I really care about them and our state.
And I'm sure Joe Biden's helped you convert a lot of those Democrats over too.
He's made it pretty easy.
You didn't go off of the Dr. Biden and Joe Biden's unity plan, did you? In uniting people in Wisconsin?
No.
Unity plan was pretty not the best. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not going to build back better, and I'm not going to circle back.
Yeah,
okay?
There you go.
Perfect.
Everybody can find him at wichmannforgovernor.com. And Jonathan, we do appreciate you taking the time out to come and speak to us. And again, this will be on replay, and then we'll have it on all the podcasts as well afterwards, all the major podcast platforms. So if any of the Wisconsinians, however you guys say it up there,
Wisconsinites.
Wisconsinites want to share
I love my Wisconsin.
Wisconsin rocks.
Nice.
The last thing I want to say to everyone, I know you have a national audience, but this is our time right now, okay? It's peaceful noncompliance. That's what it comes down to. You have to say no to this tyrannical government. So stand firm in your beliefs and your convictions. Learn. Like I said, please come over to my channel. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Telegram. Right? I'm pretty much everywhere. So that's my handle is Vote Wichmann. You'll find me if I'm on social media. It'll be at Vote Wichmann. And again, you can find a lot of those places on Wichmann for Governor. But it's our time. The politicians aren't going to fix this for us. It's going to be we, the people, just like it was back in 1776. It's going to be a minority of us. Again, it was never the majority of people that said, yes, let's go to war and start this, this new country. It was a small amount of people that did this. Just like when I started running for governor, no one really maybe believed that I could do what I did. But I was confident in myself, in my research, my mentors, right? I pieced it all together. I connected the dots, and I wasn't afraid to attack. I went all in on Wisconsin. So I hope the people of Wisconsin go all in on me and select me for governor in 2022. Thank you again for having me on.
Yep.
Of course. Yeah, you have fans in the comment section. I'm just letting you know that you are now have a lot of fans.
Thank you.
He doesn't even know how to say it.
I see what the trunk queen said. I literally had no idea to read my comments. I love it.
She's a wild one.
I love
All right. Well, thank you both. And everybody have a good evening. Go visit wichmannforgovernor.com and all his social media platforms and to get the rest of his message and help spread him around in Wisconsin so we can get him elected as governor.
Yes, thank you.